So what we need to talk about is the lawyer's brief. Do you have your lawyer's brief in front of you? I'm going to go through it at 100 miles an hour. You don't have to sort of memorize all this stuff. Do you get that this is a permanent disability? Do you get that this is a multi-sector problem? Okay? Now, do you understand what I've said? You don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's lots of research out there. You don't have to form an Australian task force and look into the problem. Okay? The research is done. Use it. I know there's going to be a temptation, and main reason most bureaucrats and decision makers want to have a task force is how you don't look at the problem. Okay? You don't need that. You need to get a bunch of doctors to come to this conference and get the airfare and send them to Washington, send them to Vancouver, and get them trained. University of Washington, it's free. They have 3-day trainings for a doctor. It's free to learn to diagnose it. They can't afford the airfare, I've told you. Canadian Medical Journal, March 2005. The diagnostic guidelines are available online. Okay? The next one is kind of hard to talk about, so I want you to just listen carefully, because this is not easy. I've yet to meet a woman in my practice that wanted to harm her child. You know what I mean? I've yet to meet one that set out to harm their child. Go past judgment and understand the reasons why pregnant women drink alcohol. This is difficult and requires a heartfelt, clear-minded knowledge of family violence, history of close relationships, poverty, lack of education, addiction, and an understanding of people cope with daily difficulty. Fetal alcohol is not restricted to poor, marginalized Canadians. Rich stockbrokers have wives who binge drink while pregnant. Young, educated professional women binge drink almost as a rite of passage, often not knowing they're pregnant. Now, everybody in Australia is very tempted to say this is an Aboriginal problem. It's not. I was the guest speaker at the Aboriginal Justice Conference 2 years ago, and I stood up and I said, thank you for being here. And then I said, rich white stockbrokers have wives who drink while they're pregnant. And I repeated it. Because at the end of the day, it's very easy to say, oh, it's their problem. It's not. The University of California has got a multi-year study of who drinks while they're pregnant. Do you want to guess who drinks while they're pregnant the most? White women with 4 years of university education earning 400% above the poverty line. Now, you can argue that you're different from the women in Canada, United States, France, England, and Germany. I can imagine some people making that argument. That's the research. Guess who drinks the least? Aboriginal, Chinese, and Hispanic women at the poverty line. This is not an Aboriginal problem. Everybody in North America that knows this stuff will very quietly tell you, poor people have fetal alcohol babies. Rich people have what kind of babies? Attention deficit disorder. Okay? We getting through? Very quickly, and I know that's very controversial, and I know there's a whole bunch of stuff about attention deficit, and I know it's like the psychiatric issue that everybody wants to talk about. Here's, in your materials, we'll talk about it in a minute, but we might as well do it right now. Here's a graph, okay? And it's kind of like a Diane Mulvin special. Fetal Alcohol Spectrum Disorder is not a diagnosis. It's an umbrella term, okay? It's not a diagnosis. The diagnoses are alcohol-related neurodevelopmental disorder. Alcohol, you don't have to write this down. Alcohol-related behavioral disorder. Partial fetal alcohol. Fetal alcohol effects. Fetal alcohol syndrome. There's about 7 or 8 of them. Okay, those are specific diagnoses. But everybody in this room has seen expert reports that say the following. Johnny has, go through the list for me, conduct disorder, oppositional defiant disorder, antisocial personality, sensory integration disorder. Any more you want to know about? Autism, Asperger's. Come on, what are the rest of them? You've seen them in the reports. Bipolar, conduct disorder. Okay? When you see a kid that has 2 or 3 reports, has got 2 or 3 of this word salad in it, what is the report really telling you? There's a problem with the brain. And don't get hung up on a diagnosis. Leave that to people who do that. You're practical people. You've got to do something. So what do? Learn to see the brain. Okay? Do you understand the difference between labeling versus identification? Do you know labeling's got a judgment attached to it. We see it in court all the time. Mr. Boulding, your client's behavior is unacceptable. Blah, 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 blah. Identifying is, Mr. Boulding, your client has some problems with impulse control. He does not understand social rules. This kind of behavior, we have to do something about it. That's identifying. But we spend a lot of our professional careers labeling. Okay? So now let's talk about the good news. Turn to the bottom of that first page, and there's a thing about the external brain. The external brain is a very simple idea. You need people to fill in those skylights. Do you remember that stone pyramid? You know those missing brain cells? You need those people to fill those in. You got that? Now, I need a couple of big, strong fellows. Can I have you for a second? I just love to show this because easy way to tell the story. I want to introduce you to my client. This is my client, Billy. Billy has problems shopping. Good. Every time he goes shopping, it's usually a young, attractive woman at the counter, and things go bad. Things fall, things break, clothing gets torn, it just goes badly. And so he gets a judge, finally, long record for shopping badly. Assaults, sexual assaults, mischief, and it's bad. We get a judge who I think's wife is on the board of directors for the SPCA. And so he orders, he's not going to send my client to jail because he's realized sending his kid to jail is a waste of time because he's been in jail, doesn't do anything. And he sends him to the pound to walk dogs twice a week. Well, Billy goes there, and all of a sudden he's walking dogs 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. What's the big change in his life right away? Uncritical love. He loves dogs. And the dogs love to be walked. So the first thing, a big change in his life, is inexhaustible supply of uncritical love. The second thing is the pound is run by old retired people. All very nice, gray-haired people who've been very successful in their lives, thank you very much, have time on their hands. And they've read the reports, they know the story, they know that he has problems shopping, among other problems. And they say, I'll take you shopping. I'll go down to the bay with you to get that new pair of trousers, you know what I mean? So there's someone that's stepping up to the plate. That's a Canadian-American baseball term. That means that someone is helping out. Someone is helping go to his appointments. Someone is making sure that his rent is paid. Things like that, okay? That's an external brain. Here's another external brain. This young fellow here is from Rapid City, South Dakota. He is a drug mule. He is the kind of guy, listen, here's this little baggie. Give it to him over there and he'll give you 20 bucks, I'll give you 5. Okay. Here's this gun. Hold on to this gun and I'll see you in a couple weeks, okay? Thanks. Okay. We're going to the drugstore about 1 o'clock this morning. We need some help lifting some boxes. Can you give us that? Okay. You get my drift? Okay. Now, so obviously he has a problem. He needs friends. Why would he do that, right? Okay. So he is a problem. And we changed the probation officer changed his probation order. It now reads, you must be home every night by 7 p.m. Simple, concrete language. You must be home every night by 7 p.m. And then what she did is the genius. What she did is she has his picture and the official probation order, and she spent 3 weeks going around this town, about 100,000 people, talked to everybody he knew. At the video arcade, at the mall, at the gas station, every employee said, here's his picture, here's his probation officer. Help me out. 6:30, 6:45, send him home. His offenses drop. Because as the community realized, they know he's a drug mule, they know all that stuff. So what do? It's time to go home. Okay? Do you get the sense of, do you understand? Now those are my answers. You've all got similar stories. At the end of the day, what I'm hoping is, if you go through the stories, don't be looking at this nice man. I want you to think about, what does his brain look like? Well, he's a professional and he's very skilled. But compare what you think his brain looks like, and some kid that says, I'll hold a gun. Sure, I'll hold, oh, Fred, yeah, I'll hold a gun, no problem.